Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to another recent reads on Sunday, my kind of regular Sunday video in which I talk about the books that I've just finished or started or the books that I'm currently working on. And the first one that I want to talk to you about is translated fiction. French author Joy Sormont, Life Sciences, translated from the French by Lara Vergniaud. The English edition came out 2 years ago and the French one in 2017. This was a buddy read for me with Joe Smith, one of the most loyal subscribers, viewers, commenters, and also a fantastic buddy reader. So thank you, Joe, for reading this with me. Joe picked this because it was on both our TBRs, but I told her when she picked it that I actually had no idea who told me about this book or how it ended up on my to-read list. Maybe I saw it somewhere on BookTube, but I don't think so. Maybe it was a new release back then. But anyway, I was glad that we picked it because I really like this one. Joy Sormont, like I said, is a French author. I had never heard of her. I think this is the only book that she has published that was translated into French, even though there is another book for which she won a prestigious French prize, but I don't think it's translated. The book is about illness. So we have this lineage of women from the late Middle Ages of 1500s around until the present day, and all the women in this lineage, in this family, have an affliction. Some of them weird, like a very early ancestor had the dancing folly, so she would dance, or then somebody had a laughing fit. They would laugh uncontrollably. Sometimes the affliction lasted and sometimes it passed. So the main characters here is Ninon Moise, I think the last name is pronounced, a teenage girl, and her mother, forgot the mother's name. Great. I think it's Esther, but I'm not sure anymore. I will call her the mother. As you know, I'm really bad in remembering names. But anyway, so the mother's affliction is that she can see only black and white, and that affliction didn't pass, so she still has it. And the daughter, when she is 17, gets also a very painful affliction. She can't touch her arms from the wrist to the shoulders. Everything that touches the arms, whether it's fabric or a human touch, is extremely painful. So we learn about the lineage, this weird family or lineage of women who all have an affliction that nobody can cure. But the main focus is on Ninon when she started to experience her quote-unquote affliction. Her she tries to get help. So there is a vast array of medical professions whom she sees, and of course, it doesn't really, they don't really help her. She goes to Western medicine, Eastern medicine, shamans, seances, acupuncturists, everything you can possibly think of. That's all I'm going to say about the plot, because otherwise I will spoil it, how it ends, whether she actually finds a cure or what happens to Ninon. But for me, it was really a story about the female body. We get some information about the ancestors and what they had, these women, and the fact that modern medicine, but also older medicine and society in general, is not really listening to women and their pain or their bodies. That was for me the essence of the book. I loved the writing, the translation I didn't read, obviously, the French, but the English translation, in the English translation, the writing was really beautiful. It has this very quiet flow, which is quite wondrous when you think of the premise of the book, which is rather violent and something very strong. But the language and the flow of the book is is not in opposition, I would say, but it balances the story. So it was a joy to read Joy Saumon, and certainly together with Joe. Highly recommend this one if you're interested in the topic. The next one also was a buddy read with Kathleen from Kathleen Ann, and we, if you follow my channel, you know that we are buddy reading feminist literature, fiction, non-fiction, and in October we read non-fiction again, Mary Ann Sigard, The Authority Gap, which was published in 2000 and something, obviously, 2021, so almost 2 years ago. Mary Ann Sigard is a journalist, a British journalist, and I think this is her first book. And what she does is just what it says on the cover. Why she explores why women are still taken less seriously than men, and she explores all kinds of topics under this premise. Women are interrupted more, for instance. Women are taken less seriously when it comes to being an expert. Women are quoted less when it comes to science articles. Every variation or every aspect of the authority gap is explored. I thought it was a really interesting read because it gave me this, she quotes a lot of studies, but it's not a boring read at all because she also talks to a lot of women. She talks about her own experience. So it's this mixture of science and not memoir, but personal experience and interviews with various women. So what I really appreciated is that she focused her attention on this topic and gave a lot of data, facts and data about it. And I really like that. When I talk about, well, why are women interrupted so often? How can I prove that? And there are studies that prove that women are actually interrupted more and speak less in public, at least in meetings. What I thought was lacking was the more fundamental question: how can we overthrow this system that is actually obviously not working for 50% of the population? She did have a last chapter about the actions that we could take, and that was, I really appreciated that. Kathleen rightfully pointed out that a lot of times, pointed out to me that a lot of times these books lack a sort of call to action or giving me tools and instruments that what I could do. So the book did that, but I felt the more fundamental question, how can we get rid of a system that is so biased towards, like I said, 50% of the population, that was not included in the book. But if you are interested in this topic, and if you really want to have an extremely well-researched, detailed account of what is wrong with the authority gap, this is a good book to read for sure. So those are the two books that I want to talk to you about that I finished. I just very briefly want to mention the two books that I'm still working on. This one and Radcliffe's The Mysteries of Udolpho, published 1794. I'm buddy reading this with Terry. We started beginning of October, and I will finish this weekend. I mean, it's Sunday, but maybe today or tomorrow. So we are nearing the end. and I will talk about it more once we've finished. And the other one the other one is a leftover from Victober, and that is this long poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Aurora Lee. I'm now on page 30 of 300, so I'm 10% in. I didn't manage to finish that during Victober, but I do want to finish it, at least try to finish it before the end of the year. So I try to read 10 pages or so every day or every other day, because it's one long poem in like 10 books or something, the life of this woman, Aurora Lee. So fingers crossed. And then there are 3 books that I started last week. The first one is also a buddy read with Adam and Kathleen, whom I already mentioned. And Adam, you all know Adam. Instagram link will be down below. And we have 4 times a year aroundish, we read a book together, the 3 of us, and at least once or twice a year we try to pick an Iris Murdoch whom we all admire. And it was my turn to pick, and I picked the 1985 book The Good Apprentice, which is for Murdoch's I mean, for her work, it's quite a big one. It's over 500 pages. Adam and I are a bit apprehensive because we read Nuns and Soldiers together, the 3 of us, in the spring, and we didn't think it was that good of a book. I mean, Iris Murdoch is never really bad, because she was such a brilliant, talented writer, but it was just not one of her better books. And this is also a newer one, published, I think, a year or so later, or 2 years later, than Nuns and Soldiers. And my favorites so far are the older ones, The Severed Head, The Black Prince. Those books I really think are brilliant. So we are a bit wondering whether the later work is maybe not that those are not the books that we appreciate most, but we'll see. Anyway, the premise is what drew me into the book. Well, you know how the book is called, so I can just hold it like this. Because the premise is that this young fellow in his early 20s, Edward Baltram is his last name, he plays this prank, and this is not a spoiler because it happens right in the first 5 pages. He plays a prank, as he thinks of it, with a friend. He gives them drugs, I think it's LSD, in a sandwich. And the friend never took drugs and doesn't want to take drugs and doesn't know it. And he's having this trip, and it's all, going funnily, and then it's going wrong, and the friend dies. So that is the opening, the death of this friend by Edwards. I mean, it's his fault. His guilt is the premise of the book. And then we meet all kinds of characters in typical Murdoch fashion. The stepbrother, we have a stepfather, because Edward's mother had an affair with a famous artist, but the artist was married, so she married somebody else while she was pregnant. So the typical setup of a group of people on which the book focuses, and in the center is Edward and his stepbrother Stuart, who is a little bit older. So we're not even a third in. We had our first check-in, and the next one will be more than a week from now. But the opening is good. So despite the apprehension, I have hopes for this one. And the next 2 are my first choices for nonfiction November. I made a whole video about the books I want to read, or at least the possibilities that I have. And the first one that I picked up was for the prom record, because record I interpreted as breaking a barrier. And this is the memoir of Lenny Goodings, A Bite of the Apple, A Life with Books, Writers, and Virago. So Lenny Goodings was one of the first employees of Virago, and Virago obviously was founded by Carmen Khalil, who unfortunately just died a week or two ago, just when I hauled this book, actually. Carmen Khalil was the founder, together with two other women, and then there was a group of women founded, maybe I should try to make a whole sentence. Virago was founded in 1973. And then Lenny Goodings joined in 1977 as a publicist. And so this is her memoir about the work at Virago and of Virago. In a way, it's a memoir of Virago. So I'm about a third in, and so far I'm really enjoying it. The look back at what feminism was at that point, and maybe if you're not familiar with Virago, Virago is a feminist press. So it was founded with the idea to publish women and books about women, to give women a voice. They occasionally publish a male author if he writes about a woman. A biography of Emily Pankhurst, for instance, or something like that. But mainly 99% of the catalog is female writers. And that was kind of revolutionary back then. And to read about how revolutionary it was and how snobby the publishing industry was towards female writers and how male dominated it all was. That is, and it's not even that long ago. I mean, Virago will celebrate the 50th birthday next year, so it's half a century, but still. So I'm definitely enjoying it. I like Lenny Goodings' writing style and the way she describes Virago authors, but also the broader picture and her own journey as a publicist coming from Canada and then settling in London. And the last book I want to talk to you about is also for Nonfiction November Buddy Read with Heidi from My Reading Life, and we are reading Four Lost Cities, A Secret History of the Urban Age by Annalee Newitz, published also a couple of years ago. I think I'm well prepared as always, 2020, yes. Annalee Newitz, I know them. They now use, since 2019, use the pronoun they, them. I know the author from her sci-fi. I read Autonomous, which I quite liked. Didn't know that the author wrote nonfiction, and this is about 4 cities. One in the Americas, one in Turkey, Pompeii is in there, Angkor Wat is in there in Cambodia, cities that were abandoned and then quote unquote lost. We read the first of the first part, which is about the Turkish city Çatalhöyük. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating how humans started living in cities, settled down, and how the city looked like and was organized as far as we can tell. Fantastic. I mean, for geeks of us, this is a book definitely to geek out on. And I'm using it for the prompt secret because I picked 2 books with secret, not in the title, but in the subtitle. Anyway, so those were my books for the recent reads on Sunday. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, looking forward to your comments, and I'll see you all soon in the next one.